Hi, everyone, and welcome to Founder Sessions episode 4. Joining me today is James Allen. James, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm not too bad, thank you. I'm excited to be chatting with you and tell everyone about what my experiences have been and what I'm doing now.
Great stuff. And how's your day going so far?
It's been pretty full on, to be honest. Yeah, I've had a few meetings with people. I've just finished a sort of ask me anything session on Zoom, which is a new thing that I've started, but we'll get onto that um, towards the end of the podcast, I guess, when we're talking about what I've been up to most recently. But yeah, now it's just it's just this podcast ready to get started.
Brilliant stuff. And James, do you want to give the audience a bit of a insight into who you are and sort of your background, that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a startup founder. So I've been through process of starting up my own business. Um, I'm a tech advisor, so I basically advise companies on tech, um, especially startups. Typically need a lot of help with getting understanding about what's possible and what's not possible, and risks, and just understanding the tech landscape. Um, I'm an app developer, so I actually create apps, web apps, mobile apps for people. And previous to that, I've been a software engineer. Pretty much, I mean, I've been in IT my entire career, pretty much since I was about, I guess, 21 was my first job in IT. And since that, I've never really left. It's been a mixture of software development, project management, bit of consulting. Yeah, all tech basically. And
Yeah.
outside of that, I like to play the piano. I like to cycle occasionally. I have a health condition which I manage, which is I'll talk about that in a bit, because it's kind of the reason I created my startup. Um, I like bird watching and walking, and yeah, that's basically me.
That's good stuff. And so you spoke about it there. You've been sort of in the IT tech world since you were 21. When did you start of think outside the box a little bit and think, okay, I could probably transfer my skills into something for myself, my own sort of start of my own business? When did that happen?
Well, that was after a period, a very difficult period that I had with my regular 9 to 5 job, which I had before that. Um, so, because I have a condition called axial spondyloarthritis. Um, it's the new name for it. Actually used to be called ankylosing spondylitis. It's not important why they changed the name, but because either of them are pretty horrible names, because nobody can ever remember what it is when after I told them. But anyway, it's an autoimmune condition which I've struggled with most of my life. It causes pain and fatigue, and I got to a point where it just wasn't working with a 9 to 5 job. I just wasn't able to commit to very specific hours that I needed to. Um, so I eventually left, and I was trying to find what it was that would work for me. And it was actually while I had gone back to Newcastle University to do some research, because they were actually paying people to come back from industry back into academia. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough just to live off. And I thought it was a really good route back into teaching. So I was doing that, and it just all came out of me playing around with side projects, just for fun. That's I was kind of experimenting with apps and with electronics, and actually at the same time there were these sessions on at the university about business. Um, and it was run by somebody who had actually started their own business. Um, and they had done that with a group. It was a group of students who were all working together on something, and they just had this idea of the software that they could build, which they could spin out into a business. And so that part of the course was telling them about their experience of doing that. And I think partly what allowed me to think outside the box and think about what can I do, um, was just knowing that somebody like me had done that. They were a student one day at university, and they had this idea and they just did it. And there was nothing magical about them, that I saw them and they thought, I'm a similar kind of person. So that kind of made me realize it is actually possible to start a business. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. And at the same time, I was having this idea of an app for people with chronic health conditions. And it all just seemed to mesh at exactly the right time, where I had this inspiration and I thought, you know what? I've got an idea. It is possible. And everything fell into place at the right time, really.
Yeah. How crucial was the university to not just your idea, but many students? Because people say that universities are a key part of the community for the startups. They give so much, Newcastle, Teesside, the like. How supportive were they in your journey to Chronic Insights?
Well, I mean, obviously, it was just this business course that was the real inspiration. Because at the time, I was working on something completely unrelated. It was really interesting, really technical, super super technical problem that I was researching. It was actually to do with solar powered wireless sensor networks. So you got like sensors deployed across a large geographical area. So like a farm, for example, where you've got sensors in the soil to detect the humidity in the soil and predict exactly when is the right time to harvest, for example. Um, and so it was this idea that I had was really just a side project that I was doing at home. And and when I had this thought of actually this idea I've been thinking about, which is connected to me personally and my own personal experience, and actually just it just felt so much more interesting than what I was doing with my research. Um, that we so I talked with my supervisor in the university, and they were so supportive of what I wanted to do, because at the end of the day they just wanted me to be doing something that I love doing. And so we agreed that, yeah, if we can just we'll stop the research, go and follow your passion. And I was very grateful for them for their support in doing that.
No, that's brilliant. It's always so encouraging when, you've got an idea in your head and then someone else sort of gives you that push really, like, yeah, let's go for this one. This one's a good one. And for this one, it's so personal to you. So do you want to talk more about the process of this? Obviously, you've come up with the idea. What happened next?
So the university actually helped me a lot in the next steps, because they actually got me in contact with a consultant, a startup consultant called Chris Skilton, who helped me just walk through what it was that I was proposing as a business idea. So we did a business model canvas. This is I mean, this is I think it's quite well known in startup. scenarios. It's a sort of standard template where you've got it's divided into sections, and you've got what your main proposition is, what it is that the value that you're actually giving to the customer, and then you've got you figure out what your sales channels are and what your revenue model is and what you how you're actually going to reach out to customers. So we went through that together, and also went through just a very simple. There was another one where it was a quadrant. We just got a big flip chart divided up into four corners, and it went from it was simply just breaking down what the problem is, what the potential solution is, and then identifying what are the barriers to that solution, and then finally what it is that can be built that will deliver what it is that you're trying to deliver. And just going through that was a massive help, because it really helped me solidify my thoughts around what is it that I'm actually trying to do, and how is it going to work, and who's going to buy it. um, that was a great first step. But then they also got me in contact with an accelerator called Ignite, who, and again, this is one of the things that just happened to fall into place just at the right time. They were starting, they actually call it a pre-accelerator. It was starting in Newcastle, which is where I was, and it was starting in, just a few months' time at this exact time that I was going through this process. So I thought, oh, that's ideal. So really getting on to this accelerator was the first steps to help me get started.
That's brilliant. And before you joined the accelerator, you didn't build a single thing at this point? Or was it still out on paper?
It was mostly on paper. Um, what I had, I had actually built one thing at this point, and it was just actually it was something that I did as a way to learn electronics, because when my research, the research that I was doing about wireless sensor networks, involved knowing about electronics, because there were these little tiny little thing battery or solar powered things which would sense the environment, and I needed to program these things, and so I needed to suddenly learn about electronics, and it was something that is part of the reason I picked that research, is I wanted to learn about that. And so I was looking for a little project that I could do just to help me learn electronics. And so one of the ideas I had was creating a little watch type device that I could wear, which would record how much pain and fatigue I was having right now, just using a dial. In fact, I've got it over here. I'll just get it.
Brilliant.
So this is it, because I keep it nearby, because
Yeah,
it's kind of nice to have. It sort of is where it all started. So you can see, so that it's basically, I printed this sort of watch body using a 3D printer. So it's just basically plastic, and printed these three dials that go on top of it, which you can turn. So the idea is three dials are for three different symptoms. Maybe pain, one for fatigue, and one for sort of joint stiffness, which are things that I have every day, but it constantly changes. So I thought this would be a cool little project, just being able to record that throughout the day, just by wearing this, and when pain gets worse, I can just turn the dial. And so inside it, it's just basically a Bluetooth chip connected to a coin cell battery, and so the Bluetooth chip, it takes a reading from the dial, which is uh, connected to the chip. The chip reads the voltage that that comes from that changing the dial, and it sends it to a phone app. Um, so yeah, that I had made that before I even really had this idea of actually creating a business. Um, but it sort of was the start of the journey though, because that's what started me thinking about ways of recording symptoms.
Yeah. And could you talk more about that problem in itself? You're recording the pain you're suffering each day. Um, could you tell people how much of a problem that is, recording that sort of that pain and what it means for the doctors you go and see and how it helps them?
Yeah, so the real problem that I wanted to solve actually does all center around doctor's appointments. So I, um, so I see a specialist kind of doctor called a rheumatologist for my particular condition. And a rheumatologist studies the musculoskeletal system, basically all your joints and how the joints are connected to your muscles. Because there's a lot of problems, there's a huge variety of different problems that people get with the musculoskeletal system. And one of those is this axial spondyloarthritis condition that I have. Um, and so I would regularly go to see my rheumatologist. I don't go as regularly now because it's luckily it's improved and I've got better at managing it and I have better access to better drugs now. But at the time, when I was coming up with this idea, and certainly previous to this, when I was really struggling with my 9 to 5 job, I would see my rheumatologist a lot. And there was one particular year where it got really out of control. The symptoms went just off the charts. And we never really understood why. And it does happen with autoimmune conditions a lot. You just get these random flare-ups. Um, and during that year, pretty much it was going on. I must have been, I must have had 50 appointments with them or something like that. I don't know. And with different people, pain psychologists and physiotherapists, and because I was in a really, really bad state. And what I realized was, and this is something that people, there are thousands of people in hospital waiting rooms right now with this same exact problem. They're waiting to see the doctor and they know that they have maybe 20 minutes. Um, Typically, you'll get, at least with my rheumatologist, that, it depends on the hospital and what their waiting lists are like. But you might have typically about 20 minutes with them and you might not see them again for a few months. And this is your one opportunity to explain everything that has happened since you last saw them. It's your opportunity to really get across what you've been experiencing, all of the ups and downs. You might have had good days, you might have had bad days, you might have had random little flare ups, you might have had, a shoulder swelled up one day and you're not sure why and it went away again. You've got to remember about that. And and often your answers to the questions that you're going to get in that appointment are going to directly affect the treatment that you're going to get, the quality of the treatment, the drugs that you're going to be recommended. So it's so important that during that 20 minutes that you can perfectly communicate everything. And that's really, really hard to do just to begin with, just to remember all of those things. But especially if you already are in pain, if you're fatigued, if you're really struggling that day, it's always the case where, the day that you go to see the doctor, maybe you're having a bad day, or maybe you're having a really good day. And either way is bad, because if you're having a bad day, it can just be and you're tired and you're fed up, it can be really hard to communicate. You know, you might just want to say, you might just want to get it over with and say, yeah, stuff hurts, and that's about it. Please help. And you don't go into the detail of, you know, exactly what's happened, how bad it's been, how many days have been good days, how many days have been bad days, because you just can't, you literally just can't think clearly. Um, it's kind of like if I ask you to describe what the weather's been like over the past 2 months, it's like, I don't know, I can kind of tell you roughly. It's been kind of cold, I guess, but you can't say day by day what the weather's been like, even though you've experienced it every day. It just sort of all blends into one, doesn't it, when you're trying to remember it. So that's the real problem that I was struggling with, and that I realized that we could do so much better. Um, because my rheumatologist, I love them to bits. They're really nice people, but they would take this one snapshot of my life, how I am right now when they see me, and it was kind of frustrating that they didn't see me on my worst days or on my best days, so they get a real picture of the whole experience. And I got frustrated with, so I get questionnaires to fill out when I see them, and it's a standardized questionnaire where I fill out questions, and one of the questions is, over the past 6 months, on a scale of 1 to 10, how has your pain been? And that's almost impossible to answer, because like, what do I say to that? Some days it's a 8, other days it's a 2. Some days it's 6. It's like, well, so what do I put down? Obviously, they're looking for like an average, but I don't know what my average is. Honestly, I don't really know. So it's kind of a guess. Um, and they need these snapshots to be able to say, they need some sort of data to be able to say whether a new drug that you're starting on is actually helping you, or if it's not, we need to try you on something else. Um, But I realized we could do so much better than that if we as a patient are able to record day by day, or even hour by hour, or however often we want to, recording exactly what's happening quickly and easily, and then for the doctor to be able to show that to the doctor, and it just changes the conversation between me having to explain in words to them actually being able to see a chart of exactly everything that's happened, and it then becoming a discussion about why those things have happened. What's this big spike in pain? What happened on that day? Is it, oh yeah, right, that's when my knee swelled up, and I'm not sure why. That is basically the crux of it all.
And what was the reaction when your doctor saw all this data? Were they like, "Oh my god, this is a game changer?" What were they like?
It was really good. Actually, I actually saw his eyes light up, you know? It was like "Oh, this is interesting." I don't think he'd ever had a patient come in with a chart before with their pain, and just was really interested in it, because he doesn't see, as a as a doctor, and you see a patient. I mean, they see so many patients, and they see each person for such a brief amount of time, really, and then it's on to the next one, then it's on to the next one. So it must be really difficult for them um, to really get a clear picture of what's happened, and often, I I kind of struggled a lot with just explaining everything, and so it was good for me as well, just to be able to just point to something and say, "Look, This is this is how I've been. So it was really positive. Yeah, it was really positive. And that's when I realized, you know what, I want to make this into a thing.
Yeah, it's eh, many founders don't see that sort of personal, real reaction to things. I know it's your doctor, but it can be a customer, it could be anything like that. Seeing that true reaction to something, and then the light bulb in your head saying, "Okay, we've got something here." So you've made the watch, you're recording your pain. Um, let's go back to Ignite. So what sort of stage were you at when you went into Ignite again?
Pretty much at that stage. So
Yeah.
I had sort of played around with, yeah, the watch, and I had a really basic app on my phone which I had been using to record my pain, and that's what I took into the doctor. But it was like super super basic, um, and it didn't look very good. Uh, and it only worked on Android. Um, and yeah, so that's pretty much where I was at, but I didn't know anything about how to start a business, how to, you know, figure out my finances, how to market it, how to actually get customers interested in it. All of this was just a complete a massive question mark in my head. It's like I don't know. I've never done that before. I've always been building a thing, building software within a big team of people who do all the sales and the acquiring clients and the marketing and the finance. I've never had to do all of these other things before, which you need to know as a startup founder. So I started with Ignite. I was very green when it comes to startups.
Yeah, and I think for context, let's talk about your app for a second. Let's talk about the stage it was at before you went into Ignite. So that was basically your MVP, essentially. What did the obviously the app connected to the watch, but on the app, what was there?
It was really just it was just, um, it was just a chart, uh, with the readings from the watch, and that was it. So, there wasn't any way to sort of, export the data, or, it was literally just a screen. And this watch that I created, um, was never really I never really intended that to be part of the product that I was gonna build, build, because building a physical device like this on a large scale, is a massive undertaking. And I knew nothing about manufacturing, um, and to be honest, I ended up doing a smartwatch app, instead, um, rather than like a physical device. So yeah, sorry, I've forgotten what was your what was your question?
No, it was just understanding the sort of MVP of your app before going on to
Yes,
Ignite.
right, yes. So yeah, that was basically it. I mean, there wasn't really anything. So because it relied, yeah, so that's where I was going. Because it relied on this physical thing, this one-off unique device that I built myself, it wasn't really a product that I could actually sell to people yet. Um, so so yeah, that's the stage that I was at.
No, it's brilliant. And let's talk about Ignite. Many people watching this have probably heard of an accelerator or a pre-accelerator program. Um, let's go into the process. So let's say the very start, you've applied for it. Um, presumably got your interview. Um, yeah, just talk us through the whole process.
Yeah, so there was a couple of two-stage interview process. I think it was two-stage. Just me talking about my idea, just the general broad strokes of it. Who my customers would be, why, and luckily was accepted on. And this pre-accelerator, they had there was basically funding that came along with it, um, through a company called North Star, again based in Newcastle. So basically, had a bit of seed funding to go along with it, and it was a very intense, full-on 3-month program. Well, just over 3 months, 4 months really, where we all sort of come together. Lots of startup businesses basically come together, to all learn about startups. So the whole process was basically a schedule of um, workshops and um, sort of speaker sessions and fireside chats and things that we would do together. So we would form little groups, where we would basically we would say what our next problem is, and everyone else in the group has a couple of minutes to give their feedback on and their suggestions for what their solution to the problem would be. So just lots of little things like that, to help us really get to know each other, learn from each other, but also learn from people coming in, experts in marketing, experts in finance, experts in how to build an MVP, um, social media, all of these different tools in the toolbox that you need. We basically went s- day by day. There will be a session on one thing or the other. Mentoring as well. So we will go through. We would have people coming in just to provide us mentoring, just somebody else to talk to explain our business and get their feedback. Um, so that was basically the process, and yeah, it was it was really intense and very busy. Uh, but it really helped. It really helped me sort of get my head around what I needed to do, and was actually really inspiring as well. It was a good way to just find the energy, and the enthusiasm for everything that I needed to do.
Yeah, I've ran a pre-accelerator myself, and it was virtual, but you could still sense the buzz. Everyone was like feeding off each other. If someone pitched, and then someone would like have that energy going into their pitch, it's sort of like a domino effect, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, I think, I mean, we had a really great group of people, and they all became really good friends, and many of them I'm still in touch with today. Literally today, I had a conversation with a couple of them this morning, and it was so great to have those connections, and because this is the other thing that I didn't have when I started. I didn't have a network of people. I had an old network of people I'd work with, in very, large established businesses, but I didn't have any sort of network of people in the startup arena. So that's another thing that I really gained from doing the accelerator is actually just knowing more people and finding connections and the whole network of people around me.
So
Yeah.
if you would give us sort of, let's say, three main benefits of being on that accelerator program, what would them three be for you?
I would say number 1, um, it's it's having other startups going through the same journey that you're going through at the same time. For me, that was massive because it can be a lonely process. I was a solo founder, and I found that especially scary and daunting, because it's like I'm basically on my own on this. But to have other people all together in the same place, going through the same journey with the same questions and the same doubts, same fears, um, and the same problems. For me, that was that I put that at number one. That was so helpful because I felt like I wasn't alone in the journey. And we actually really we were able to help each other because we found we each had our own skills and we were all good at particular things, and so we would help each other out. Um, so yeah, definitely number one. Number two are probably the sessions. Obviously the content is really the sort of meat and bones of a accelerator. It was actually just sitting down and learning what a balance sheet is, how to record cash flow, how to do Facebook ads, how to do all of these different things that pretty much any startup these days, especially a tech startup, they all need to do these things. And probably I say a third one would be the network. Yeah, as we've said, like the network is invaluable, and just being able to keep talking to people, keep making connections, keep learning about who you can call on when you need X done or when you need Y done. Yeah, so yeah, all of those things.
Yeah, the third point, community is key, especially in sort of a smaller city, let's say like Newcastle. Everyone needs to stick together and stuff like that. So coming out of Ignite, what stage were you at? Were you ready to take over the world, or was there a few more lines in the fire that you needed to cross?
So coming out of Ignite, I hadn't. It's a funny thing actually. Um, day one, I'd ordered it because we we were in this co-working space called Tusspark in Newcastle. Um, that's where the accelerator took place because this was pre-COVID, so it was being in person was not was not the strange thing it seems like now. So
Working with
we would
people.
all actually go in each day to actually be there physically with everyone, and so I wanted a computer to to work on and to actually build my app, but I very quickly realized through the accelerator how much I still needed to learn about everything other than how to build an app. So I already kind of knew how to create software. And so through one of my mentoring sessions, we were talking about this, and I realized that one of my tendencies is to gravitate towards the comfortable thing that I already know how to do, rather than focusing on the hard things, the sort of scary things that I don't know how to do and that kind of worries me. And so when the computer arrived at this co-working space, so this really nice Dell tower, which was really powerful and would do all the things I needed to do. I agreed with this mentor not to open it until for like a couple of months. Just leave it under the desk because do you know what? I don't need it now. What I need to do now is learn and absorb and plan and really identify what my value proposition is, like what my messages are to my users. What is it that my users really feel? Um, because I had my own experience, but I needed to validate whether what I felt and what I thought and experience was the same as other people, because I only have this one data point, me. Um, I needed to do all of this work before I actually built the app, started building the app. Um, and I'm really glad I did that because that really helped me when it did come to start building. I had a much clearer idea of actually what I was building. So when that it's like 3.5 month pre-accelerator came to an end, I'd only just started building. Which so I still didn't have a product yet, but I was well on my way, and I was in a much better situation than I was when I started.
No, that's brilliant. Uh, can we go back on the validation process as well? A lot of founders, you know, think of something, oh great, but what they fail to do is actually speak to other people, see if it's good or not. Um, what did you do to validate that idea? Obviously, you've got the one data point, which is your own experience in yourself, but how did you find, the people to speak to get some feedback on that idea?
Actually, just reaching out. Um, I mean, Instagram was a massive thing for me. I'd never used Instagram before before this. I'm not like a big social media person. I'm the kind of person who would like. I'm never quite sure what to write or what to post, or it's like it's not really a me thing. But I I actually discovered on Instagram, and I think more maybe more than other social media platforms, for some reason, there are huge communities of people with chronic health conditions on Instagram. And when I started using that, when I started posting about me and my experience with axial spondyloarthritis and finding out, realizing that there are thousands of people on Instagram who have exactly the same thing that I do and go through exactly the same experiences, have the same struggles and anxieties around chronic pain and how to manage it, how to communicate with people. Um, that became probably the most important thing, the most important channel that I had to actually connect with other people who would be my customers. So basically, my target customer was anybody with chronic pain or chronic fatigue. And I initially started with people with specifically my condition because I felt that I had a lot more in common with them, and it was a more authentic way to reach out and get help from people and actually ask, what do you think about symptom diary apps, and if you could record on a 3D model, for example, would that help? Um, so yeah, that was how I ended up doing it mainly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear startups find their sort of targets in many ways. Yours was Instagram. Some people use Reddit. Some people like walk the streets to just speak to people. There's so many different ways.
Yeah, and I guess it really depends on where your customers are, like who they are and where they are. And one thing about having chronic pain is often you're at home a lot. Um, and so actually social media specifically is actually a really big benefit for people with chronic health conditions who were maybe, maybe way before COVID hit. People with chronic health conditions kind of already are in a sort of semi state of lockdown, just for different reasons. They just don't have the energy to go out a lot. They might be in pain. They might be in significant pain a lot of the time. And so social media for people in that situation is a massive benefit, just to be able to connect with other people and communicate, and just to share the fact that you're going through this thing that really sucks. And just to know, because often you will you might not know anybody in real life who has this weird condition that you have. Um, but they're on Instagram, and you can find them really easily just by searching the hashtag for whatever condition you have. Um, yeah, so yeah, but you're right. Like depending on your particular business, um, yeah, reaching out to your customers might involve something completely different. Yeah, yeah,
No, it's a good point on the social side because you could be one hashtag away from finding your niche. That's how powerful social media can be for startups. I really like that example. So
mhm.
coming out with Ignite, I've got to ask the question now. When did you open this computer?
It was probably, yeah, it was probably like maybe about a month towards the end of it. Um, yeah, and started working. And so it went through a couple of iterations. The first one was too complex. Um, it was it was maybe a software developer's kind of UI, which I thought was really cool. But the moment I got it into people's hands and actually watched them interact with it in person, that was that's invaluable to do. You know, if you're building an app, it's really, really important to actually see how people interact with it, because I had built this thing, but I know it inside out because it's my baby. It's this thing that I've been working on for a long time. And so it's impossible to get into the mindset of somebody who's never seen this app before and is like seeing it for the very first time and maybe looks at it and goes, what what? What do I do next? Uh, and to actually see that process. And so I saw that a lot. I saw, a lot of uh, not sure what to do next. It's a little bit too much going on. And so, very quickly evolved it into a UI which was much more step by step. Just do this one thing first. So record the time, the date and time of your symptom reading, and then record how severe it is on a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever scale that you've configured, and then record on the 3D model where it is on your body. Um, just breaking it down into simpler steps, and actually and adding a walkthrough as well. That was something that changed, that added a lot, and needed to be there. I think it's a really difficult thing to do, a walkthrough. I found, um, and being a yeah, it's yeah. I learned a lot going through those early iterations and early stages. So it took me quite a while to get to where it is now.
No, it's I've seen a lot the fear with founders to actually hand over their product to somebody else because they're maybe scared of a judgment or in case they're a bit too harsh on the feedback. But I think when you actually, pass it over to someone and just let them do their own thing and let them struggle with it, and then you step in is, like you said, invaluable.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I struggled with that. I fell into the same trap. So I did have, and again, this is a part of the great thing about doing Ignite is I was surrounded by people who were more than happy to try out this new thing that I just built, and just get instant feedback. Even if they didn't have a chronic health condition, I could say, try this, see what you think. Just pretend that you that you have a symptom that you want to record, and actually watch them go about how to do it. Um, yeah.
yeah, and it could be feedback on anything, couldn't it? It could be the way it looks, things like that. It could be any sort of feedback. You just never know until you actually take that mini leap of faith and get it in someone's hand.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so I mean, even so, I still like to actually release a public version. I did that later than I probably should have, for exactly the reasons that you say. It's like I was kind of, everybody everybody has this problem, is you want to make it kind of perfect
yeah.
before you release it publicly. You want to, oh, I just want to add that other feature in, and I want to add that another feature in because I want to test all these things. I want to know what people know about everything, all these ideas that I've got. And um, Yeah, I definitely fell into that trap of doing too much for the first version and not releasing it sooner. Yeah,
It's so easy to do though. It's so easy. You know, there's a sort of a catch 22 where a good app with one good feature is better than an app with a ton of features that doesn't really work. So,
yeah, I agree.
and if
Agree.
you can get over that barrier and just accept that it's going to go out there, people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. But you are going to get feedback from both sides, which you can take and improve.
Yeah, I agree. I made that mistake as well. You know, I tried to add too many things. Um, you know, I actually experimented with doing a sort of a community part of the app where you could register a profile and you could share your symptoms and you could create a little avatar for yourself and I sort of realized that I was, you know, trying to build a like a social network almost, and I realized it wasn't the right thing to do. The right thing to do was concentrate on doing this one thing well, and that is recording your symptoms and being able to look at it and export it for your doctor to see, you know, and analyze it. Just do that bit, concentrate on that bit, and get it really just nail that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great advice
Sorry,
for
I sorry, I
anyone.
wasted so much time.
Well, no, it's people
I mean,
call it wasted time, but
yeah, you're right, not a waste, because it's a journey that I needed to go down to
yeah,
realize that, I guess, but just looking back on it, I thought, all those hours I spent coding that feature that isn't in the app anymore. I just think, "Oh, oh," but again, like, this is why you need people around you to tell you these things, you know, to tell you things that maybe you don't want to hear or that but you need to hear those things. It's another reason why community and accelerators and everything is really important and can really help.
100%. And James, where's the product today?
So today it's out. It's on Android and it's on iOS. It's called Chronic Insights. Um it's now got this 3D feature, which is probably the thing that I stumbled across quite late, actually. It was quite a late feature that I added, where you can basically you've got this 3D model of a figure, which you can sort of rotate and zoom in and pan and you know this kind of 3D model of you essentially. And what the idea is, you can paint onto this model with your finger where you're having pain or whatever other symptom that you want to record, because that became a really powerful feature. That's the one thing that people really kind of I found were talking about. It's like that's cool. I like that, and so that I ended up spending quite a bit of time developing that. And that's kind of what I advertise it as now. I kind of advertise it as a 3D symptom diary, um, to sort of set it apart from all the other symptom diary apps out there. Because you know this is not a new idea. Symptom diary apps have been around for ages, and there are loads of them on the app stores. But you know, you know, and I you know obviously that was part of the really initial planning back in the university, is doing this sort of market research. But I realized they were all kind of a bit rubbish. I wanted to build something that was premium, that actually really worked, that was done from a perspective of somebody who actually is in pain all the time, and realizes the needs of those people. So yeah, that's the stage that it's at now. It's kind of done. There's a few things I still get feedback from people who have given me some really great suggestions of that this little addition would be really nice. What about that? So I've got a little list, but it's sort of just ticking along nicely at the moment. Um, and it's making a little bit of money. So there's a subscription. So the app is free to download and free to use all of the features except for the 3D feature, which was because I spent a lot of time on that, and it's the thing that really makes the app different to everything else out there. There's no other symptom diary app that allows you to record your symptoms on this 3D interactive thing. And that's what I'm really most proud of, I think. So you can download it today and use it. Um, and yeah, that's where it's at the moment.
No, it's brilliant because some founders don't even reach this stage of having something public out there, which is unfortunate. But it's out there and it's making you a bit of money on the side as well. So that's brilliant. So let's talk about the present, James.
Mm,
You said you're a freelance app developer. You're also a tech
yeah.
startup advisor. Just tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I realized going through this whole experience of starting up Chronic Insights and developing the app and everything that goes into doing a startup, I realized that what I enjoyed doing most in life is building the things, building that software that does something really cool that actually delivers value to people. And and so Chronic Insights, the company got to a stage where to take it to the next level, I would need to bring on other people to help me, a co-founder, employees. And for that, I would need to raise more money to do that. And I realized that I just actually found out a lot about myself, what it is that enjoy doing, what it is I don't enjoy doing, and what I really want out of my life and my career. It's really made me think about it. And what I realized was I didn't want to take Chronic Insights down that expansion direction. I didn't want to have to manage other people and be, responsible for a much larger company with maybe shareholders and investors. It's partly my personality and what I learned about myself, but it's also partly my health condition. I have to be very mindful about not committing to doing too much because actually if I get stressed and if I start worrying, which I would, I realize that I'm the kind of person who would worry a lot about investors and about not letting people down. And sometimes you just gotta grow and embrace that. But I felt for me, because I still have fatigue every day. I have pain every day. Like right now, my spine is it's kind of aching. So it's like it's something that I've always got to manage very carefully. So I realized that it's not what I wanted to do. What I want to do is actually just do the building, the tech, the developing apps. And so what I should be doing is being a freelance app developer, using all of my experience and knowledge from previously my previous career, 18 years in IT, um, and taking the experience I've learned from building this app as well, and everything that's gone into launching it, and everything, all the knowledge that I now have around startups and everything else that goes into business, and actually use that to help other people build the tech and advise on all the aspects of technology that startup founders need to know. Because I mean, I was very fortunate that I had the skill set to actually build my app, because otherwise building apps, it's surprisingly expensive. It's one of the things that people are always surprised at how much it takes to actually build an app. Um, and the reason is it is incredibly complicated. It has taken all these years and years of experience to get to a stage where I can actually create my own app, write the front end, write the back end, put all the pieces together, get it on the app store and launch it and be able to debug it, be able to, get all the error reports and know when things are going wrong and be able to fix it. And all of this stuff, it's really hard, but I love doing it because it's kind of this giant puzzle that I can work at, and also it's something that I can do from home, which helps with my, again, with my condition. I can sort of work in a comfortable environment, and I've got all the things that I need around me. I can do my exercises, which I need to do regularly. I can take a break for an hour and lie down, which I need to do every day. Like I say, if my spine is aching. Um, and so that's what I decided to do. I launched myself just a couple of months ago as a freelance app developer. And I also I'm a tech advisor, so I'm talking to a couple of companies just about being there to advise people, and explain technology, explain how apps work, es- and particularly to entrepreneurs who don't have a tech background, because I feel like that's where I can really help, and I think I'm really good at doing it because I enjoy doing it. Is explaining tech in simple terms. So many people get really complicated specifications from a software company for for building an app, and they'll tell me, look, I just don't understand what I've been given. This document full of jargon and technical terms, but I don't understand what it is that I'm paying for, and just worried and nervous, and people just need second opinions, and somebody who's independent of that and doesn't have an investment in making a sale. Somebody who can just come in and just say, yes, this is a good proposal, this, and explain what it is, or alternatively, actually this isn't right for you. They're trying to sell you a product using a technology which they're experts in, but actually it's not the speciality that you need. You need this. And so that's another one of the services that I provide. So that's what I do currently. Um, yeah.
I love that, especially the explaining tech simply. I can think back to when uh, my business Purchase went through the Innovate UK, um, one of the grants we went through, and
Mm,
one of those things. Part of that was getting quotes in from subcontractors.
mhm.
So we were one of tens of thousands of startups that would have won that award and would have had so many quotes come in. And as you say, they fill them so much with jargon just to make them look bigger. It's like, oh, look, I got a 9-page PDF, and it's just full of the stuff you need to know is probably fills one page.
Yeah.
They send you these great fancy documents. I mean, credit to them for making them look beautiful, but the things that you need could only be in a paragraph. And I think
Yeah.
that service you're trying to provide there's will be really, really beneficial.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just it's knowing your audience. Some people will like the technical detail and will want to know all those things, because and that's typically if you're a large established business that already has some in-house IT knowledge and can actually analyze that and know what it all means. But a lot of startups don't have that. And it's this is the mistake that a lot of software development companies and freelancers make, is not realizing that fact. And actually, in maybe what you need to do instead is just maybe a set of drawings is what you need. This is what a user will see when they first open your app. This is what happens when you press this button. Explaining it just in a purely functional perspective, what the user experience will be. This is what we're delivering. A non-technical founder doesn't need to know what kind of database is behind it, and how it's all going to be stored technically, and what the names of all the technologies that are involved. If your audience isn't technical, that's just going to confuse people. Um, And so, yeah, that's where I think I fit in, is filling that gap.
Yeah, as a non-technical founder myself, I remember going back saying, you know, is this what we wanted? Simple terms, and how much will it cost?
Yeah.
That was only my worries.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's no, it's brilliant, James. So, what are your sort of goals for 2022? Is it just to, you know, get your name out there, help more startup founders? Tell us about your goals for
Yeah,
2022.
exactly. Exactly that. Because I've never really had to win clients before and reach out to people who need help. As I say, like before this, I've worked in as a small cog in a large company, or doing just working on my own startup. I've never had to actually, present myself to other people as a freelancer and explain what it is that I'm offering. So that's the kind of the journey I've been on for the last couple of months, is learning how to do that. Creating a new website called Elegant Swift. So that's how I'm sort of branding myself, because I deliver elegant software and I do it swiftly. So that's kind of my tagline. Just trying to summarize what it is that I do as an app developer, and getting to grips with LinkedIn. LinkedIn has always been, and again, because I'm not like a massive social media person, it's not something that I've invested a lot of time in. Previously, it's just a way for me to get my next job. It's like a CV, but now it's much more of a tool to actually post about what I'm doing, what advice, 'cause, and giving free advice. So, like, I'm starting to just post about giving out free guides that explain tech concepts in simple terms. Um, and so, yeah, that's the journey that I'm going through, and just listening to people, listening to people who have tech questions and problems, and have this idea for an app, but just have no idea what to do next, how to get started. Just reaching out and listening, and keep promoting what I'm doing. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
No, that's brilliant, and I think I've said it. You know, much needed as well, especially the being impartial to the project of the people and just staying neutral and giving your best advice can only benefit a founder as well. We're getting to the wrap up here, James, and I just want to ask, you know, what advice would you give anyone watching today?
So there's a couple of things that, I mean, the because I got some really good advice um, at the start of Ignite from a guy who's now a really good friend, um, and it was simply this. y- It's a really simple piece of advice. When things get overwhelming and you have so many things going on that you feel like you need to do, and you don't know where to start, and you're kind of feeling a bit lost and a bit overwhelmed, just stop and make a list of what your goal for the next month is, and then figure out what actions you need to do to actually realize that goal. Um, and then just pick the highest priority one, break it down into physical steps. Like, what am I going to do next? Is it write an email to this person? Is it start creating that website? And just do it. Just make one little step forwards. And that, I keep coming back to that piece of advice in my head whenever I get to that stage where I'm just like, oh, there's so much to do. I don't know what to do next. I always just remember that piece of advice is like, just figure out what the next thing to do is, and just do it, and just keep doing that. Keep iterating. Um, and yeah, I guess my advice would be just to pass that pass that on. because it's really helped me.
No, I'm a big nerd for lists myself. Just getting everything out there and being like, okay, what's priority and what's the next step to get this in
Yeah,
motion. No, that's
yeah.
brilliant advice,
So
James.
that's why I've got the whiteboard
Yeah,
behind me here. So the whiteboard on the left has my month goal, which was um, get one client reaching out to me. Get one person inquiring about my app development services. And then I wrote down some actions, which were, do a post on LinkedIn. Is one of the actions. Just post about stuff that I know, and it worked. I've got people inquiring about what I do and asking for help.
fantastic. Yeah, well, there you go. You've just validated the reason we need lists.
There you go.
Fantastic. And James, last part, tell the people where they can connect with you. Uh, let them know what websites they want to go to, connect on LinkedIn, anything like that. You tell them.
Yeah, so it's all elegantswift.com. That's where you can read about what services I offer and what I do, but also on LinkedIn. So James Allen, but the link to my LinkedIn profile is on the website elegantswift.com. You can email me at james@elegantswift.com. Probably the best way to get in contact is through LinkedIn. Um, Either search James Allen or look for Elegant Swift as well. That'll probably also get you to me. Um, and yeah, so I do a newsletter as well. I've started creating a tech guide for non-technical people, and I'm going through the process of writing that chapter by chapter. And so each week I'm going to release a new chapter. So I've done the first one this week. It's just about what are all the different kinds of apps you can build. What's a web app, what's a mobile app. So the newsletter will just keep you up to date with that. And at the end of it, once it's complete, you'll get a free PDF copy of this tech guide and it's specifically written for non-technical people. So minimum amount of technical jargon.
Fantastic. And you're dropping sessions as well? Is that a weekly
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. So I've started doing that. Had the first one just earlier today. It's just an opportunity for people to ask random questions about tech. So it's a Zoom session that I do Thursdays at 12 o'clock, 12 noon. Hopefully that's a good time during people's lunch breaks or something to just jump on a call and just say, James, what's AI, or what's blockchain all about, or I've got this idea for an app. What do you think? Um, how much does an app cost, or just any kind of question where you think you're too afraid to ask because it's too basic. That's the purpose of this, is just to ask basic questions and just get some advice, get some free advice.
That's brilliant, James. And I appreciate what you're doing for startup founders. As you know, I'm involved with Startup Grind and we're trying to just help founders as well. So what you're doing as well is, fantastic. So thank you
Yeah,
very much.
I love Startup Grind, and I'm looking forward to be involved in that as well. And
Yeah, good stuff. Good times ahead for
yeah,
2022.
yeah.
But thank you, James, for coming on the podcast. You've been brilliant.
Oh, thank you,
Um,
Carla. Thank you.
and to everyone watching, this has been Founder Sessions, and thank you.